Alright, fight fans, this episode I will talk about how we can fix the heavyweight division and make the division exciting and great again. The division has been stuck in neutral ever since Francis Ngannou vacated the title after he left the UFC in 2022. Jon Jones ended up winning the vacated title by defeating Ciryl Gane in 2023, but then Jon was keen on fighting the consensus greatest heavyweight of all time in the UFC, Stipe Miocic. But Miocic was already retired at the time and hadn't fought in 4 years. Everyone wanted Jon to fight Tom Aspinall, but he ended up waiting a year and a half to fight Stipe, further putting a hold on the heavyweight title picture. Meanwhile, the interim champion Tom Aspinall was defending the interim title and waiting for his fight with Jon Jones. Tom ended up waiting for well over a year. When Jon Jones decided to retire, Tom was finally promoted to the undisputed heavyweight champion. As you can see, the heavyweight division suffered greatly from these series of events. The lack of title fights and champions and contenders who are often inactive, waiting around for their opportunities, truly stalled the division. So how do we fix the current UFC heavyweight division? First, we have to have a title fight that can get people excited. The heavyweight title has been on the sidelines for too long. It is truly unfortunate for Tom Aspinall. He seemed to be on his way to being a fighting champion that was going to revive the heavyweight division. But his fight with Ciryl Gane put an end to that. It started off as everything was going to be an exciting, evenly matched fight gearing towards a fight of the night potential. But then Ciryl accidentally but recklessly double eye poked Tom, leading to a no contest. And 4 months later, Tom is still having major issues with his eyes and just recently had a double eye surgery, so it is uncertain when he can return. There are rumors stating that the UFC has requested Tom to vacate the heavyweight title. So now the number one priority is for the UFC to put together the biggest heavyweight title fight possible. If Tom is indeed vacating the title, then the UFC should allow the light heavyweight king Alex Pereira to move up to heavyweight to face Ciryl Gane for the vacant heavyweight title. This will be a fight that excites fans and will be an amazing fight between two world-class strikers. And there is plenty at stake for this fight, as Pereira will have the chance to make history and become the first ever 3-division champion in the UFC. The UFC can put the vacated undisputed title up for grabs at the White House. And this is one of those rare fights that, regardless who wins, it will be a win-win situation for the UFC. If Alex Pereira makes history and becomes the new heavyweight champion, there is a good chance Jon Jones will come back to face Pereira, building up another mega fight. Despite his arthritis, this is the fight that Jones has been seeking, so it makes sense for him to come back for a title fight with Alex. And if Ciryl Gane wins, then he can face Tom Aspinall in a rematch that will be much bigger than the original fight. With Ciryl as the champion and the bad blood between them, Tom will be as motivated as ever to take his title back from the man that injured him. So this fight will build a big buzz and generate many more mega fights after. However, a huge title fight is only a short-term solution to recreate interest in the heavyweight division. There are more things the UFC needs to do to rebuild the division long-term. The next step is to sign all the big-name free agents outside of the UFC. And of course, that includes Francis Ngannou, who never lost his UFC heavyweight title. Dana White must put aside his personal disdain for Francis and sign the man immediately. Although Francis is already 39 years old, signing him would still be great business for the UFC. You can put Francis back in against whoever the champion may be, whether it's Tom Aspinall, Ciryl Gane, or anyone else. If Francis wins, you can once again promote him as the baddest man on the planet. If he loses to the current champion, then it will give the rub to the new champion, and he can build his name off of former champion Francis. So either way, it will benefit the UFC. In addition to signing Francis, the UFC should also sign Rico Verhoeven, a kickboxing legend who recently retired from the sport of kickboxing, becoming a free agent. Rico is an elite striker and a legend in combat sports. Even though he may not be a well-rounded MMA fighter, just based on his stand-up skills, he can make so many great fights in the UFC. Imagine Rico versus Alex Pereira in the octagon, Rico versus Ciryl Gane. These will be amazing fights. And in the Paramount era, it's all about making the best fights possible. So book Rico accordingly and give the fans some great, memorable stand-up battles in the octagon. If signing Francis and Rico is more for setting up the short-term big fights, then the UFC still needs to sign someone that's for the long run, and that is none other than Gable Stevenson, Olympic wrestling gold medalist and NCAA champion. Stevenson is now a prodigy of Jon Jones, and he is only 26. Even though he only has a 2-0 record, with the UFC heavyweight division in its current state, his wrestling foundation and power alone can already break him into the top 15. And with the right matchups, it's not impossible to see Gable Stevenson becoming the UFC heavyweight champion in 2 years. And with youth on his side, he can be a long-term staple in the heavyweight division. After putting on big title fights and signing free agents, there is still plenty of work that needs to be done in order to rejuvenate the heavyweight division. One of the biggest problems, other than the title picture, is that too many heavyweight fighters are inactive. Sergey Pavlovich hasn't fought since August 2025. Curtis Blaydes hasn't fought since June 2025. Alexander Volkov has yet to book a fight, and he last competed in October 2025. And they are all top 5 heavyweights. They need to learn from Waldo Cortez Acosta. Since losing to Pavlovich last August, he has already fought 3 times, winning all 3 fights with all finishes. Waldo went from being an under-the-radar heavyweight to a potential title contender by winning and fighting often. Since MMA is all about your last fight, there is nothing better than staying active. You make more money, and even if you lose, just fight again as long as you're not injured. And once you win a few, that loss becomes a distant memory. Now Waldo Cortez Acosta has more momentum and hype behind him than the man that beat him in Sergey Pavlovich because he was staying active. So the heavyweights need to stay active and just keep building their names and momentum. And finally, the UFC needs to push and build more new stars in the heavyweight division. Recently, there are many top prospects emerging, names such as Josh Hokit, Stephen Asplin, and Walter Walker. They all have great personalities, good backstories, and unique gimmicks. With the right push, they can help generate interest in the heavyweight division. The UFC should speed up their push and pit them against the veterans in the top 15 so we can see more young and upcoming talents in the rankings. For example, why put Mario Pinto against Mick Parkin on the London card? Why not put them against other older top 15 talents and see if they can pass the test? Instead of building these prospects slowly, the UFC needs to push them harder and faster, especially someone like Josh Hokit. There is no reason why he isn't ready for the top 15. Let me know in the comments what else you think the UFC can do to make the heavyweight division great again. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.